Hello, and it's really good to have your company for this It's Learning Thursday webinar. My name's Ella Coles and I'm a pedagogical consultant with It's Learning, which means I work with schools and colleges and training providers to help them develop their learning platform and get the most out of it for them and their learners. With this Thursday falling right at the end of term, I know everyone will be really caught up with festive things going on, so we're emailing out the link to the recording of this webinar to those of you who registered, so that you can watch it at your convenience. As usual, the recording will be available for any of your colleagues to catch up with on our website, so please do remind them about it. And for those of you watching this webinar from outside the UK, a warm welcome to you. If you have any questions arising from the webinar, please address them to your own national consultants who will be happy to help. To find the recording of the webinar for you and your colleagues, just go to itslearning.co.uk and click on Events at the bottom of the screen. Then click on It's Learning Thursdays on the left-hand side. I'm going to use a variety of sites to demonstrate what I'm telling you about today. The original It's Learning with the left-hand navigation panel, and also the new It's Learning with the menus along the top. If your school hasn't yet switched to the new It's Learning, don't worry. Everything I'm about to show you today can be done in both versions, and I'll point out any differences as we go. In September this year, the government published its new statutory guidance on safeguarding in schools and colleges. Any ambiguity around the responsibility of educational establishments for teaching safeguarding, including e-safety, has been removed, with the change in wording from should consider to should ensure. Teaching online safety is now not optional, but must be taught in all educational institutions and at all ages. In today's webinar, I'm going to talk to you about how you can use one of the tools in It's Learning, the blog, to give learners the opportunity to gain skills and experience using this form of social media to support their learning in a safe and secure environment, as well as giving you the opportunity to teach those all-important life skills to keep them safe. It's Learning is a secure environment for young people to start using social media, and it's also an excellent way to introduce some basic e-safety education. When we're looking at blogging, the first thing to consider is, why would we use a blog? Well, blogging can improve students' writing skills and build their confidence as writers. By blogging, they can take ownership of their writing, become better observers of others' writing, and develop a more powerful understanding of audience. Blogs encourage experimenting and risk-taking and can foster an increased awareness of private and public writing. It's been proven to particularly motivate reluctant boys to participate in writing and raise their achievement. Creating a blog can also be a bridge for students between the familiar digital world and what's being asked of them in academic essays, projects and other assignments. Blogging can be seen as a gateway experience for students who will undoubtedly be using digital technologies and media in their future endeavours, regardless of their discipline. It's also a really good way to support reflective learning. As long ago as 2003, research by Bartlett Bragg stated, many students find reflective learning difficult and initially resist it. Properly implemented, reflective blogs can help bring about reflective learning. We all know how important reflection on learning is, but how do you get it to happen? It can be rather daunting to start with a totally blank sheet, as it were, when your learners are asked to reflect on their learning. So it's a good idea to provide some scaffolding in the form of a note or a page or downloadable file in your course resources to support them. maybe some questions to get them started. And don't forget, there's more available than just text in the blog. Help learners who struggle to find the right words to use other media to express themselves. Remember, the journal is designed to help them rather than you. So let's look at how you'd set up itslearning to start using blogs. In itslearning, the blog tool sits alongside the ePortfolio. So the ePortfolio is made up of personal portfolios, working portfolio, assessment portfolio. All of these can be enabled for your courses, but that's for another webinar. The ePortfolio, the blog can also sit in the ePortfolio. So that's something that can be added, and I'll take you through how to do that in a moment. So let's go to see exactly how we would set that up in the first place. So the first thing that needs to happen is that blogs and ePortfolios are actually enabled for your learners in your school, college, or company. So I'm logged on here as the administrator, and I can see the admin tab there. So if I click on admin, I'm looking for profiles. If you're not an administrator yourself, then you just need to ask the administrator for your site to do this for you. So if I click on profiles, and you can see the various user profiles I've got here. I'm clicking on student on the little pencil at the top to open it in edit mode. And if I scroll down, to ePortfolio, I need to select if I want the student ePortfolios to be accessible to outside audiences on the web, which may be appropriate for older students who maybe want to share their ePortfolio and their blog with prospective employers or university. It could be that I want to set up the blogs so that parents could see them as well. So again, if parents haven't got their own accounts, we would need to make it public on the internet. And I'll tell you a little bit more about protecting and safeguarding students when the blogs are public on the internet. Or you may just want to share your blog with a partner school or organisation. So either selecting no for no portfolios, yes for the portfolios to be public and accessible without an itslearning account, or yes but not public on the internet. I'm going to say, for the purposes of my demonstration today, public on the internet. Just to note also that you can create and apply a policy as an administrator, so that you can set up a policy that overrides the general profile settings for your learners if you just want to use this feature with a particular group. Also make sure that you have the setting for oh, I've forgotten what it's called. The setting for detailed information about users, that's right, checked under profile functionality. So just go up to the top, and detailed information about users here, that needs to be ticked so that they can find each other's ePortfolio. And comment if that's what you're wanting to do with your group. Okay, so I'm now going to go over to site logged in as a teacher this time. So provided that someone has given you permission to view their ePortfolio and blog, you can find it in two ways. So firstly, in a course, if I just pop over to my course here, go to GCSE English. If I click on the participants list and then on a person's name, so if we go down to Yasmina, that will open up her profile card and I'll be able to click and see her e-portfolio from that link there. Alternatively, in the original It's Learning, I can click on the search box, click on user search and type in the name of the person I want to find. And again, click on her name there. Oh, just to mention that if you're doing it from a course participant list, just make sure that the course participants is enabled in the course setting so that the pupils can actually access that list as well. And then finally, as a teacher, I can also access the portfolio by going up to my Your Students tab at the top and clicking on the learner's name from there, which will take me again through to their profile card where I can see the link through to the e-portfolio. Just to go through the settings in the new It's Learning. So if I click on as Tom in this particular view of the It's Learning platform, again going to courses, I'll go to hairdressing, beauty therapy, and it's the participants list at the top where he can see individual users and click on a user to see their e-portfolio. And again, from the search button, which is in the personal menu on the new form of It's Learning. So the search box is here. I just go back to my slides. And we'll have a look at where you go next. So before starting blogging, make sure you draw up an agreed set of rules to share with your learners. And this is something which many local authorities and teaching associations have collaborated on, so do ask for advice if needed. If you've not tried blogging before, start simply. Before asking students to blog, teachers can create their own class blogs with, for example, some links to interesting resources on class topics. This doesn't only produce a useful source of supplementary information for your learners, it creates a pattern and sets expectations for when students begin their own blogging. And it also enables you to become familiar with the technology. You as a teacher also have your own blog that you could use for this. Again, check that the profile settings for staff are set as before to allow your students to find your blog. You can then allow them to read and comment on your posts. Students should begin their entry into blogging by reading other blogs. You as their teacher can use this practice not only to demonstrate how other people use blogs to support learning, but also to foster critical thinking and reading skills. teaching how to respond to blog posts is as important as creating blog posts themselves. If you're using comments on blogs, for example, for peer assessment perhaps, you will obviously reiterate to your learners the rules that they will already have been working by when offering suggestions for improving work to students in the physical classroom, whether it's through something like 2 stars and a wish, or a template answer to model the elements that you're looking for. All of these reminders can be added to the course your students are participants of, either as a timely bulletin or as a resource. Now I'll take you through how a user sets up their own portfolio. The process is the same for teachers and learners, but learners have to do it themselves for their own blog. I'll mention group blogs in a minute. In the new It's Learning, you can see here, you can find your ePortfolio by clicking on your name, and then you'll see in your personal menu, ePortfolio. If you're still using the original It's Learning, you need to be on your home page, and then you'll see the link to the ePortfolio in the left-hand panel. If you can't see the ePortfolio link in either version, you may be logged in as an administrator. Administrators don't have the ePortfolio enabled by default. Or the ePortfolios may have been disabled for your establishment, so your It's Learning administrator should be able to turn these on from the profile settings for you, as I showed you earlier. So, going back to the site, I'm going in as Tom, and from his home page, he can click on his personal menu and click on his ePortfolio. This will take him through to the menu for the ePortfolio, and you can see the blog mentioned here. So the first thing we need to do is set up the settings and permissions for the blog. So I'm going to click on Settings and Permissions. And if I'm using the blog, I need to include it in the ePortfolio. So I tick the box here. Once that's ticked, I've also got the choice of the start page that I want my users to land on. The default is the About Me page. And then I go down and check the theme, change the theme. So it's just a sort of white blank to start with, but if I click on Change Theme, you'll see that I've got a choice of lots of different skins that I can use for my blog, or for my ePortfolio generally. It then asked me to enter a short name, which makes it easier to remember the URL, the address of my ePortfolio and blog. So I usually suggest that we put the initial and surname without a gap. So it's 32 characters, either letters or numbers or a mix, but no spaces. And you can just check that nobody else is using that URL because it has to be unique. So I'm all right there. And then looking at access, there are a number of things to consider here. So your courses, obviously you could have it just for you, so it's only available for you to see as an individual. So it could be a private learning journal that you're using this for. Your courses or projects will mean that all the teachers and students who are part of your projects or courses will be able to access your ePortfolio. So that's anybody who's a member of the same groups as you. For students, this would probably just mean that it's within your school or college, unless you have a site that is across several different establishments, several different schools and colleges. All users of the site means everyone who has an itslearning account for your particular site. So if you're in a local authority site, that would mean all the users across all the schools in that site. But you can see that if I open it up that widely, I can set a password, and that means that I can control very specifically who has access. You would need to use this, for example, if you wanted to open this to parents who had accounts themselves and who were participants in your site. The last option that you've got is available on the internet, and that won't appear if I've disabled that setting in the profile. Again, I can set a password there that I can share specifically with the people that I want to be able to access it. So if I want my parents who haven't got itslearning accounts to be able to see it, if I want to be able to open it up to prospective employer, or a college that I'm applying for a place at, or university, then I can share that password with those particular individuals. Now, the box that I've got at the bottom here means that all the various portfolios in my ePortfolio and my blog will all use this particular access permission. So I would suggest keeping that ticked for simplicity, so that all the different areas of your ePortfolio inherit the same permissions. Don't forget to click on Save to save your settings there. And then you can go back to your ePortfolio, which will just see what this will look like to other people now. And you see I've got a link there through to my blog and any courses if I've got assessment portfolio set up as well. So the blog is what I'm interested in. At the moment, I've got nothing in there at the moment. I've got nothing in the About Me part either. So I need to do some work on populating that. So by going back to my personal menu, either I can use the back button in the browser, or I can go back to my ePortfolio link here. It will take me to the main menu. And if I click on blog and add blog entry, I can give my blog entry a title, and start typing the blog entry. Now obviously you have the rich text editor in here, so you have got all sorts of different tools that you can use to add to your blog, whether you want to create hyperlinks to other sites that you want to link to, add images, self-recorded video, audio, other way around, audio and video, or even embed third-party content. So just be aware that there is a lot more than just written posts that you can do here. So once I've finished my blog entry, I click on Publish. And this link will take me back to show me my blog as it would appear to others. And you can see here that it's also date and time stamped. So I've got a chronological record of the learning that I'm doing, if I'm using it as a learning journal or a diary, or just a way of organising my entries. If you're working with young learners and want to make a class blog available, where rather than each child having their own individual blog, they all have the rights to post articles on a single blog, you could do what this primary school has done and create a dummy user account for the class. So these have been set up as students with the name of the class, so these are just dummy student accounts, and the learners can then share the login for their particular class so that they can add their own posts to that class blog. So your administrator would need to create those accounts if you don't have admin rights yourself. This also has the advantage that you could log in as the class user and set up the permissions in advance. Blogs can be used in so many different ways. These two examples, for example, show a class visit where the students have blogged about a visit to Manchester Museum that they went on. This one has been led as a class blog by the teacher, who's put in an embedded video for creative writing ideas. Oops. And you can see that one of the things that really creates a stir with your learners is having a wider audience rather than just the class or even just your own school. So when they get direct feedback, for example, from outside their own school or locality, it is incredibly motivating for their writing. Not only that, but it widens cultural horizons and promotes international understanding. It's so much easier when there is a personal link there. If you want to give your students a global audience and connect with other schools in other parts of the UK or further afield, your school's Its Learning administrator, or your college's Its Learning administrator, will need to set the profile settings in admin to the yes public on the internet, as we saw earlier on. And then your learners will see the additional permission in the ePortfolio settings when they set up their blog to allow them to make their blog available on the wider internet, with the ability to set a password which can then be shared with other partner schools. Their blog can then be shared without the partner school even needing an Its Learning account. Just send them the URL. Pupils in one school in London have used blogs to good effect with their partner schools in France and Italy. Pupils blogged about what games and activities they did and invited comments from pupils in other schools to find out what they played and did in their free time. An external link was then sent to the other schools and meant that their correspondents didn't need to log into Its Learning in order to be able to respond and comment on those blogs. Blog entries use the rich text editor, as I mentioned, so your posts aren't limited to text. Your learners could post audio or video contributions as well. Not only is this great fun, but you have hard evidence of oral skills and reasoning, even for the very young. Think about how you could use these tools for your own learners to articulate their thoughts. Personalising learning by giving choices about how they respond is also very motivating and engaging. It's also a wonderful way to communicate and practice those speaking and listening skills in modern languages, for example. This example shows students' recordings which were shared with a partner school in France. The video was easily recorded using a tablet and then uploaded to the blog. In this example, where a Key Stage 4 student has used it as a way of recording their journey through, oops, I'll just go back there and hopefully be able to share the video with you of this particular student's work. There we go. So she used it to record the journey through to her final product for her media studies exam, and that was shared directly with the examiner as her final portfolio. So the link was sent to the external examiner, and the examiner was able to access that from remotely in order to assess the work. I would prefer there to be a narrative storyline. And not only has it enabled her to chart the development of her thinking and design, but the portfolio also showcases her skills in using all sorts of digital tools to explain her work. Helsinki Business College students realised the power of the itslearning e-portfolio to collect practical and education experience in one easily accessible spot. They list their education and work experience in the e-portfolio itself, which they then submit as part of job applications. But they took it a step further. They filled their blogs with videos where they demonstrated things like customer service and language skills. Both of these skills are difficult to show proficiency of on a traditional CV. And in the short video clips, they simulate a situation, for example, a scenario involving customer interaction, to demonstrate real-world proficiency. So it's been out with the old, the listing proficiencies under the skills section of your CV, and in with the new, recording yourself successfully handling a real-life scenario. So who would you hire? You may have noticed that I frequently use the term user rather than teacher or learner during this webinar, and that was deliberate. Staff members, but not administrators by default, can switch it on in the profiles, the e-portfolio, but staff members also have an e-portfolio in itslearning, and in a very similar way, teachers can reflect on their own practice. More and more schools are now using the blog and e-portfolio as a way of maintaining a professional portfolio, which can then form the basis for appraisal meetings and can be used as evidence in job applications and interviews. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this brief look at blogging in itslearning, and it's given you some ideas. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you've been inspired to go out and try blogs. We'd love to hear your ideas for how you've used itslearning for blogging, so please tweet us at itslearninguk, #LearningThursdays. Thanks again, and I'll leave you with my contact details if you have any questions. Until next time, have a very happy Christmas and a well-deserved break.